The wind does not announce itself. It simply arrives, a sudden, living weight pressing against your chest as you stand on the deck of a Viking longship. The sea beneath you is iron dark, restless, flecked with ice that knocks softly against the hull like knuckles on a door. Your breath rises in pale clouds and vanishes. There is no fire here, no flames dancing in a hearth, no glowing coals. And yet, you are warm, not comfortable, not safe, but warm enough to survive, warm enough to cross the edge of the world. This is the North Atlantic in winter, and this is how the Vikings lived. At first glance, nothing about this scene feels extraordinary to the people aboard the ship. This is normal. This is order. The longship creaks and flexes as it always has. The men and women move with practiced calm, tightening ropes, adjusting sails, shifting their weight in unison as the waves rise and fall. They do not huddle around a fire because fire does not belong here. Fire is landbound. Fire is fragile. Out here, flame is a liability that can burn a sail, ignite tarred ropes, or condemn an entire crew to the sea. So there is no fire, and yet the ship endures the cold. The secret is not a single trick or device. It is a system, a way of thinking, a culture built around the acceptance of cold rather than the illusion of conquering it. The Vikings did not ask how to banish the cold from their ships. They asked how to live inside it. The longship itself is the first answer. Its shape is not just elegant, it is alive. Built from overlapping planks of oak, each one carefully shaped and riveted, the hull flexes with the waves instead of resisting them. That flexibility prevents cracks, prevents flooding, and most importantly, prevents icy water from forcing its way through rigid seams. The wood absorbs moisture, swells, and seals itself tighter the longer the ship remains at sea. The ocean tries to invade, and the ship quietly refuses. Beneath your feet, the deck is not a single flat surface. Planks are laid with intention, leaving just enough space for water to drain, but not enough for wind to cut straight through. Sea spray freezes on the surface, but the cold does not immediately reach the heart of the ship. The longship breathes. It holds. Inside the hull, below the gunwales, the air is different. Not warm exactly, but calmer. Still, the wind loses its teeth here. This is where bodies cluster, where cloaks overlap, where shields are stacked not just for battle, but as walls against the cold. The Vikings understood something that modern minds often forget. Heat is not only created, it is preserved. Wool is everywhere. Thick, lanolin-rich wool cloaks wrap shoulders and legs, heavy enough to block wind, dense enough to trap warmth even when soaked. Linen underlayers wick moisture away from skin. Furs line the most vulnerable parts of the body, necks, wrists, ankles, not as decoration, but as survival tools refined over generations. Every stitch represents experience. Every garment is a memory of someone who froze so others would not. The crew does not sit still. They cannot. Oars rise and fall in steady rhythm, muscles burning, blood flowing, heat generated through movement. This is not exercise. This is heat production. This is life. Even those not rowing shift constantly, stamping feet, adjusting rigging, leaning into the wind. Stillness is dangerous. Stillness invites cold to settle in the bones. Food arrives not as comfort, but as fuel. Dried fish, smoked meat, dense bread, calories packed into every bite. Fat is prized, not feared. It burns slow and hot inside the body, feeding the internal fire that no storm can extinguish. When they drink, it is not to forget the cold, but to endure it. Warm ale, thick and heavy, passes from hand to hand. It does not make the sea kinder, but it makes the body more stubborn. All of this works. For a time, the ship moves forward through freezing fog, across waters that swallow ships without ceremony. The Vikings sing sometimes, not loudly, not always, but enough to remind themselves they are still human, still together, still alive. The system holds. The cold remains outside the skin, gnawing, testing, but never quite winning. This is the strength of the Viking world, adaptation without illusion. They do not pretend the sea can be tamed. They build themselves to survive it. But every system, no matter how refined, carries its own weakness. Because heat without fire is borrowed heat. Temporary heat, a fragile balance maintained only through constant effort. If the rowing slows, the warmth fades. If the food runs low, the fire inside the body weakens. If the wind shifts just enough, or the sea grows rougher than expected, the cold begins to seep inward, layer by layer, thought by thought. And the Vikings know this. They know the cold is patient. Storms do not announce their arrival either. One moment the sea is harsh but manageable. The next it rises like a living thing, waves slamming into the hull with bone-shaking force. Spray coats the deck in ice. Hands numb, fingers lose feeling. Movements grow slower, less precise. The system strains. There is no fire to retreat to. No warm cabin sealed against the storm. The ship is open. The sea is everywhere. And now the cold is no longer just outside the body. It is inside the mind. Fear creeps in quietly. Not panic, not yet. Just a subtle erosion of confidence. A question that forms unspoken in every crew member's thoughts. How long can we keep this up? The longship flexes, groans, survives. But survival demands sacrifice. Cloaks stiffen with ice. Wet wool grows heavier, dragging on shoulders already aching from hours of effort. The same materials that protect begin to burden. What once preserved warmth now drains energy faster than the body can replenish it. This is the hidden cost of life without fire. On land, fire is transformation. It cooks food, hardens tools, lights the darkness. On the sea, fire is absence, and absence shapes behavior in brutal ways. The Vikings cannot stop to rest. They cannot pause to recover. The cold does not allow negotiation. Every moment demands action, and eventually action becomes exhaustion. This is where the illusion cracks. The myth of invincible seafarers, fearless and unstoppable, dissolves into something more fragile. These people are not immune to the elements. They are merely persistent, and persistence has limits. Historical records tell us what the sagas only hint at. Ships lost not to battle, but to exposure. Crews weakened slowly, decision-making impaired by cold-induced fatigue. Navigation errors made not from ignorance, but from numb minds struggling to think clearly as heat drains away. The sea did not need to attack. It simply waited. The dramatic turning point is never sudden. It is a quiet moment. An oar slips from a numbed hand. A knot is tied too loosely. A sail adjustment comes a heartbeat too late. Small failures cascade, and the system that once held begins to unravel. The Vikings believed strength was found in endurance, and they were right. But endurance is not infinite. It demands resources. It demands rest. It demands balance. When that balance tips, the cold does not roar in triumph. It does not celebrate. It simply takes. And in that taking, something profound is revealed. The Vikings did not heat their ships because they could not afford the illusion of comfort. Fire would have made them feel safe until the moment it betrayed them. Instead, they built a culture around resilience, around accepting hardship as a constant companion rather than an enemy to be destroyed. But that same culture carried a tragic truth. Survival depended entirely on effort, on movement, on unity, on never stopping. The moment someone could no longer keep pace, the system failed them. There was no excess warmth to share, no reserve, no margin for weakness. This is the hard truth beneath the legend. The Vikings crossed icy seas not because they conquered nature, but because they aligned themselves with it and paid the price when alignment failed. Their strength was real, their ingenuity undeniable, but their world left little room for mercy. And as the longship fades into the fog, its crew silhouetted against a pale, indifferent horizon, the lesson lingers. Human beings are masters of adaptation. We build systems that let us survive in places we were never meant to exist. We trade comfort for control, safety for reach, fire for motion, and for a time it works. But no system is invulnerable. No adaptation erases consequence. The cold always waits. The sea always watches. And eventually, every illusion of control meets the quiet truth of limitation. The Vikings knew this, even if they never spoke it aloud. They felt it in their bones, in the ache of muscles and the numbness of fingers. They understood that power is not the absence of weakness, but the willingness to move forward despite it. And perhaps that is why their stories endure. Not because they were warm on icy seas without fire, but because they sailed anyway, knowing exactly what it would cost them.